ways.
All right, Christian, thanks for the short game lesson that we just did a couple days ago, or about a week ago, and thanks for meeting me on the course of this lesson. I'm hoping to pick your brain about just some different situations and stuff like that. But the first thing I wanted to talk about, what are, in my PGA classes, in my teaching and coaching classes, we talked about mental practice and motor imagery, and how those can affect our game and help us or maybe even hurt us. And so what are some ways that you think mental practice is important and can help the game?
Yeah, so anytime you're talking about mental practice or dealing with anything mental, right, a lot of times we're talking about preparation, right? And preparation can either harm you or help you, right? In a lot of cases, people will get up to a tee shot just like we've got here on hole 9 here at the country club, right? We've got the water right in front of us, right? And, you know, for a better player like you, you're not worried about this, but for your everyday amateur, you know, they can see this water and start to get nervous, right? Because what happens if they top it, goes in the water, and then all of a sudden their hole that should be a pretty easy 4 or 5 now turns into a 7 or 8, right? So then you're really behind the 8 ball. So, right, when we're talking about mental practice, we're trying to prepare ourselves to perform as well as we can on the hole, right, without the actual execution of the swing, right? So, you know, most people don't realize that there's a lot more that goes into a golf swing, of course, other than just the execution of the physical golf swing, right? So whenever we talk about mental practice, right, we're here, you know, one of the big things we're trying to do is we're trying to visualize, right? So we're trying to see a shot before we hit it. And what that can do is not only will it take your focus away from, you know, just executing a shot and put it on something that's more positive, right? But when we start really focusing on a shot we're trying to hit, right, and we can see that shot, well, then it starts to take a lot of the trouble out of you, right? Because now I'm no longer worried about the water short or the out of bounds to the right. I'm just worried about hitting the shot, right? Jordan Spieth talks about all the time, aim small, miss small, right? Well, I believe a big part of that is visualization, right? Being able to see that shot shape, and the closer, the more, you know, intensely or the more vividly we can visualize a shot, right, the closer we can get to pulling that off. And even if we don't pull it off, we're still going to have a much more tolerable miss, right, versus if we just get up there and hit it, you know, and we're worried about out of bounds, water, whatever it may be.
Yeah. So in our classes to go along with mental practice, we talked about vividness and controllability, and you mentioned vividness. What do you think would be the hardest part of that to achieve? When you're, even if you're just sitting at home thinking about, you know, a shot that you had in your round and you want to think in your mind about how you would practice that shot, do you think it's harder to just imagine that situation in the first place, or do you think it's harder to imagine the different aspects that could come along with it in that shot?
Well, it's a lot easier if you're just sitting at home, right, and we're doing mental practice at home even, right? It's a lot easier to picture yourself out on this hole, just playing the hole, right? But what we don't think about is all the conditions, right? So the controllability of it, right? So we don't think about, you know, the fact that most of the time this hole plays into a pretty stiff breeze, right? That affects what clubs we choose, right? You know, also whenever we imagine, right, nobody likes to think of themselves hitting a poor shot, right? So typically what I'll find is when people visualize, they see themselves hitting it right down the middle, right, and then hitting it right on the green and then making a 30-foot birdie putt, or, you know, if they're less humble, a 5-foot birdie putt, right? But you have to think about all scenarios, right, when we're trying to prepare ourselves to play a hole, right? We're not always going to have just a perfect 8-iron into a hole, right? Sometimes it can be, you know, a half swing, it can be a number of things, right, because the conditions, right, determine what club we're going to hit, how far we're going to hit it, all those things, right? So you have to learn to control those variables, because again, it's easy to picture yourself just playing a hole. The hard part is going into enough detail to where it actually starts being productive.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, that answers all my questions there. I guess I'll go ahead and hit this tee shot and see where I end up. All right. Thanks.
God be with you.